We are pleased to welcome our next speaker, Sandra Mori, an Italian lawyer and experienced compliance professional who has worked in Italy and the US. Most recently, she was the European DPO of Coca-Cola Europe, after holding several roles of increasing responsibilities in the company since 2001, including that of European General Counsel. She also served as president of Valore D, the first association of companies in Italy that fostered gender balance in the corporate world to achieve a more inclusive company culture. Ms. Mori is currently a member of the Milan Politecnico and works as strategic consultant for the legal departments of a number of multinational companies focusing on compliance and gender balance issues. In her opinion, talking about compliance in an environment where there's discrimination and disparity is useless.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm very, very honored to be part of this great conference, and I thank you, and I thank ECEC for giving me this opportunity. And yes, we start the morning talking about compliance. I hope each of you has grabbed a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and you are, after having warmed up with the incredible yoga teacher that you just had the opportunity to follow, you are preparing for an intense day. That starts talking about compliance. Yes, it's a very good day to start a day. And my reflection today that I would like to share with you is why diversity and inclusion, in my opinion, is not a compliance issue. It's much more than that. It's an effort that every company needs to make in order to make diversity and inclusion a core value of a business. But let's start from the very beginning. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what is the exact meaning of compliance. Compliance is an action. It's something real. It's something concrete. And it's the act of complying, obeying to a command, to a desire, to a rule. But it's also as a more technical meaning, that is adhering to law, to regulations, to requirements, to industry standard. And many of you work for a company, I'm pretty sure. And so, I know that your companies have told you many times that at the end of the day, compliance means doing the right thing. And then they associate this doing the right thing with something that is related to your company's business. So doing the right thing for the environment, for the society, for other people. It depends. It depends from the business you are working in. But then, have you really have asked yourself what it means to do the right thing? Well, I did. And I was addressed to a set of internal rules, which are normally called in a company ethics and compliance programs, which are supposed to ensure that your company, that means your fellow employees and the stakeholders, follow all laws, regulations, standards, and ethical practices that apply to your business. The other question, though, that I had after having learned what exactly doing the right things means is, well, but beside me, and my colleagues in the company and the stakeholders of the company, who needs to do the right thing? Well, yeah, it's me, it's my colleagues, it's the stakeholders. It seems very straightforward. It seems very easy, no? So let's go and do this right thing that they ask us to do. Well, and then you look around and you see that in your company, in the company that you work for, and that is telling you to do the right thing, and gives you a very nice set of documents, training materials, there are issues that go really beyond that. And that the company organization and structure is not as, crystal clear as it seems to be. Actually, it seems that in your very own company, there is discrimination, there is disparity. And you say, wow, you are saying a really big thing. So you are talking about company environment, and you are saying that a company can tolerate and foster discrimination and disparity? How can this be? How can this be possible? Well, I'm telling you that this is often the case. especially when it comes to gender equality. And you know, do you know what is the gender pay gap in Europe? I'm talking just about Europe. You know, in Europe, the gender pay gap, so the difference between the salary of a man and a woman in the exact same position in a company is 13%. So a woman earns 13% less than a man just because he's a woman. Interesting. This number increases greatly in regions, in countries that seems to be very, advanced. Talking about Denmark, 13.9, Netherlands, 14.2, France, 15.8, and so on and so forth. My own country, Italy, is a 4.2, but because they calculate solely on the salary of public employees. If you put the private employees into the equation, it comes very well above the European average of 13%. So this is a sad example, but there are many others that you can think of. And think of when, in your company, there has been the last round of promotion. I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of people being promoted were men. And this is just because the people leader, the person at the top, are usually men. And men tend to favorite men. It's life. I mean, it's nothing, maybe not even conscious, but it is what it is. And it is what brings those statistics to a very, very sad examples. So, and this is, although gender discrimination is illegal, I mean, it's illegal, unlawful in most countries, both within and outside the US. And gender discrimination can have very different forms in the workplace. And of course, the law applies to gender discriminations on both sides, men and women, although women are mostly the victim. And generally, gender discrimination is when a corporation treats an employee differently because the individual is a man or a woman. And some employers have, unfortunately, outdated ideas about what work is appropriate for women and what work is appropriate for men and how that work should be rewarded. Some employers allow or ignore sexual harassment in the workplace or apply rules that put women at an unfair disadvantage. And many of these behaviors are against the law, are unlawful, are not just discriminating, are straightforwardly unlawful. And so you say, well, but those companies have policies. I'm pretty sure that if you look at the policies, there is certainly some kind of policies that prohibit discrimination, that have even examples of what the discriminations are. Some companies have very nice videos about what is appropriate or not appropriate in the working environment, and so on and so forth. But regardless of all this, discrimination is there and keeps being repeatedly used, both mostly against women rather than men. But then, let's go back for a minute. Compliance means adhering to law, regulations, requirements, and industry standards. So how can a company be credible in implementing a compliance program? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what type of compliance it is, environmental, privacy, whatever. In an organization which tolerates discrimination at the workplace, when discrimination is rooted in the way the company is structured. So this basically make you understand what my conclusion is. If you want to be serious about compliance, any type of compliance, it is paramount to first analyze your organization and work to effectively eliminate the organizational non-compliance immediately. And this costs a lot of money. Imagine that the company, and some companies have done it. I won't say the names today, but if you have a look at the internet, you will find those names, and you will find that, interestingly enough, most of these companies have changed their behavior when a woman was at the top. And you will see that deciding from one day to the other to make the salary the same, and so bridge the gap, is an incredibly big investment, especially for big companies, and cannot be done from one day to the other. But certainly, the process can be started, and companies can start working about it and eliminate the organizational non-compliance first, and then start talking about the compliance program on every other aspect of the business. And this is not only because there are laws prohibiting gender discrimination in the workplace, but also because, as we all know and we all say and we all hear, a healthy working environment requires a company to comply with the general principle of equality, fairness, and non-discrimination. This goes beyond compliance. Those are, I would even say, biblical principles that the fourth person in the society to be treated in a fair way, to be treated for men and women to be considered equal and not to discriminate. So D&I effort cannot be considered a part of a company compliance effort. It's not enough. It's not enough. They must form a core value of the business. And every company should strive, before even start talking about compliance, to make sure that the organization it treats people in an equal, fair, and non-discriminating way. So with that, I would really welcome any questions that can come from you, or even, if not questions, any reflection on this very important theme, because I think that the D&I, let's call it, although I don't like the word diversity and inclusion, there is much more than that. But every discussion about diversity and inclusion, especially in Europe, must start from gender diversity, which is, for us in Europe, but it's a bit different in other countries, especially in the US, but for us in Europe, it's still the most blatant form of disparity in the workplace. So up to you, and I would welcome any